I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
You're so sweet.
What's up, guys? We are back
We're
with
back.
a new Pope. And it's like a really good episode this time, so I'm super excited to talk about this week. So we're back, and let's just like get right into it.
We're back. There's a lot of scandalousness going on, Jess.
No, it's crazy.
So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
everybody.
we're here with Al.
I'm
Gragg,
here.
you know.
I'm here. Your boy Al G back in the house with my girl Jess.
Yep, I'm Jessie Zahner, and I'm back here with Al Gragg, you know, with the new Pope After Show, Season 2, Episode 4. And finally, we're getting into stuff. Because I thought Episode 1 was really good.
Right.
I thought Episode 2 and 3 were kind of slow. We were like getting to know everybody. And so now we're back with Episode 4, and everything's
We're in the nitty gritty,
Yes.
man. The nasty underbelly of the church.
Yes. So it starts with Marilyn Manson, which I have been waiting for him to come on the show. I've been like looking for him because I knew he was coming on, but I
Really?
didn't realize he was going to come on as himself. So I thought he was going to be like a pope somewhere. So I'm always like searching, like, where's Marilyn Manson in this?
Right,
But he's
right, right.
himself. And the show just starts with him talking to Pope John Paul III. And he doesn't know that he's not Lenny.
Yeah. he thinks he's talking to Lenny.
Yeah.
And I love that. That was classic.
I know.
But what was really dope about that little interaction, though, I mean, we know that, okay, what are we learning about Pope John Maddox? You know, they say he's sensitive and fragile, but what I liked about it, he wasn't thrown off. He wasn't
Right.
taken too far back. Matter of fact, he learned something from that. He kind of took his advice about
Right.
visiting Lenny. I don't know.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I thought it was a really just funny scene because, like, for me too, like, I'd be so depressed if I showed up and then it wasn't Lenny. He was like, "You look older." It's like, well, yeah, he's significantly older.
Last time you had a beer.
Yeah. And so I just thought it was funny. And then I was thinking, like, maybe that's why he wears eyeliner, because so does Marilyn Manson.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, maybe that's why he's wearing eyeliner. So anyways, it was a funny scene. And yeah, he puts it in his head that he should go visit Lenny.
He puts it in his head and he's like, yeah, I mean, which would have been to me like one of your first thoughts, right?
Totally, yeah.
But I don't know. Okay, so what does that say about John? That he is very obviously he's vain. He has his insecurities.
Totally.
And he's very self-aware, obviously more than we even thought, that he's standing in Lenny's shadow.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to like pay homage and give this whole credence to like there's actually another pope and that he's standing in this other pope's shadow, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm going to bring that up again when we get to that part of the show. So just so we know kind of what we're going to do tonight, we're going to recap this episode like we've been doing, and then we're going to get to the most scandalous pope, which
Okay.
Al's been doing for us, and then
Hey.
predictions as well. So I just wanted to clear that up because I forgot to mention that. So so after we see the Pope with Marilyn Manson, we then see there's like a little kind of like party with all the cardinals and the Pope, a little get together they're having. And the Pope gives this speech about, I guess, like pedophiles and how the church isn't going to, I don't know, like the church shouldn't abandon their children if they're ill, but they should distance them is
Right.
basically what he says.
Right.
And then we finally start seeing more of Cardinal Spalletta.
Right.
So at the party, if you notice, right before John Paul starts speaking, Spalletta's to his left, like right there on him. And then after the speech, he says, like, "Hey, can I pull you aside for a second?" And they go outside, and he gives him a Bentley.
Right. Right. That was classic.
And then we find out more about like kind of like what happened between them.
Yeah. Okay. We find out that they were roommates, right, back in the day in
Yeah.
school, and obviously we know that Spalletta has been he's been implying that he kind of has something on the Pope, and while he doesn't come out and say it. Obviously, there's the Bentley, and it's like he could use the stick, or what do they call it, the carrot. So he's
Yeah.
using the carrot, trying to do it the nice way, gain his favor, right?
Yeah. Right. And he says that to him too. He says, like, this is a welcome gift. I expect nothing in return. So it's like there's something going on here. But yeah, then he says, "Do you remember when we slept together in the same room?" So here's my question to you, because then he said something. He's like, "No, I don't remember anything. All I remember about my youth is my brother Adam."
Right.
And he said, "Do you still sleep with that sleeper box next to your bed?" And he starts remembering, and he's like, "Oh, you had an endless stream of young visitors day and night, didn't you?"
Yeah, that was his way of throwing something back at him.
Right.
But I wonder, okay, well, tell me what you think. Is that his way of also, maybe, I don't know, was there some type of implication that they had some, like, dalliance? And he's like, oh, and maybe John's like, this is me just totally riffing off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But maybe John's like, okay, just because we had a little dalliance, you had thousands of dalliances. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking. Like, is that what he's saying? Or is he, because he said young visitors, is he saying that this guy's like a pedophile?
I didn't catch that. I mean, or I did. Actually, I did catch the young visitors now that you're saying, but I didn't take it that way.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you just took it as...
They were all young.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So then he goes on to say, Spalletta goes on to say, like, I'll inform you about things that are happening inside the Vatican. He kind of like wants to be his right-hand man. He's going to tell him all the secrets. And he starts saying some other things, and the Pope kind of says, like, I'm not going to answer any questions at night, and also after I had 3 glasses of champagne. So he kind of just moves on.
Right.
And that's the end of that for now.
Right.
So.
And then, okay, so I forget what it was he proposed. There was a proposal he put forward. And it totally slips my mind and he kind of like kicked the can down the road. But maybe, I guess, yeah, he was trying to, obviously he was pitching his power.
Right.
And so the next time we see them, I assume that, that they're of the same mind because they're having that kind of little delegation. It's that meeting, and the Pope John is like, okay, well, here are my appointments, obviously, Voiello, you're going to remain Secretary of State. Sophia, you're going to maintain, your role. Gutierrez, we like the Gutierrez's in the mix. You're going to be my advisor. We like that. And automatically, I don't know where he pops up, right?
Right.
Spalletta, Cardinal Spalletta, and he's like, yes, you're going to be my creative secretary of creativity.
Yeah.
But then he turns out later on, he kind of makes him like his personal secretary, right?
Right,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, that's what he says. He said he's going to be his creative secretary, but then later he says, like, my personal secretary. And you kind of see them, because then he goes, I want to talk to you in private. Because he comes up with all these, like, bogus ideas that could help the Pope be, like, look good in public or something, and everybody's shutting them down. Like, Sophia and Voiello are, like, going back and forth, like,
They're rolling
come
their
on,
eyes.
this is such a joke.
What was surprising, though, is like, man, come on, man. It's like you didn't, like, vet those ideas first. You just put them up there, off the top of your head.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if they purposely did that, because then, so they were, like, making fun of him and laughing in front of the Pope, and the Pope's like, okay, listen, I want to talk to him in private, so go on your way. So I almost think, like, did they set that up so that they could talk privately? So it was kind of like he was, like, reprimanding him for having these stupid ideas.
Good call. I don't
know.
No, I think
know.
that sounds better.
It sounds better. It doesn't mean it's right.
Because Spalletta seems more crafty.
Yeah.
And I thought they were out of the blue, and I thought it was kind of set up this whole power play between him and Voiello. But as it turns out, when they go and have this aside, he has this very healthy respect of Voiello, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So it's so crazy. I found this to be so weird because I did think he was kind of going to team up with the Pope, and they were going to have like this power thing against Voiello. Because when they start talking, he said, "What do you make of Francis's death?" And he said, "I think Voiello had something to do with it."
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, I agree too." So like the Pope and Spalletta are on the same page with what happened to Pope Francis. And he says, I want to make sure that this doesn't happen to me too.
Right.
But so he said, can you look into it?
Yeah.
But then Spalletta's like, no.
Not like, don't mess with him. You know what I mean? He doesn't. He implies that he's like, we don't know. He says God is on his side, but he's almost like implying like, we don't know what God he serves. Like, does he serve Satan?
I know, it's so weird. So he's like, yeah, just drop it. Like, Voiello has all this power. Like, every time somebody tries to oppose him, they end up literally in pieces.
And here's the other thing. Well, tell me if you thought this so. Either, yes, he does have that healthy fear, and it's a sincere warning. So at least I feel like he has John's best interest. Instead of just let him go off to his doom and take on Voiello. But the flip side is I'm wondering if that he's in close cahoots with Voiello and his hands are dirty too. Maybe that's why he said it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know, because it's so confusing now that you say that, because this guy obviously is in with Sophia and her husband.
Right.
Is Sophia truly in cahoots with Voiello?
I haven't seen anything to prove that outwardly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And also, does Sophia even know her husband is in cahoots with this guy, Spalletta? She might not even
How could she not know? Well,
yeah, you're right.
I think how she should not know. And again, but again, you're right. They haven't shown that, so you can't assume anything. But okay, so let's talk about these little power. Okay, these little like centers of power. So we have Voiello, and he seems to know everybody's secrets of where the bodies are buried. We have Spalletta, who's in league with Sophia's husband,
right?
Who's like this rich power broker behind the scenes. Oh, and so far the only and Voiello's team is the heavy bower. That's what we know.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering who goes between both sides. That was the only reason I was speculating if Spalletta had also perhaps had some his hands dirty in the death of the previous pope. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of power bases.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure how it all works together there, because we don't know if Sophia knows that her husband is in cahoots with Spalletta, and like if they're all tied in with Voiello truly or not. I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of this.
But yeah, I would tend to believe she at least knows that her husband's in cahoots with Spalletta. I'm assuming that she knows that because that's her husband.
Right.
And they seem like they're thick as thieves. They're thick as some other stuff too, man. Shout out to the glory hole scene or whatever.
What? Seriously, what is going on with those two? I don't know, but like, I for some reason think her husband's doing some shady stuff behind the scenes that she doesn't know yet.
So you think she's more scandalous than her? You think that more scandalous than Sophia?
I think he is.
Okay.
But the thing is, I think she's smart. I'm not afraid for her. I think he's doing stuff behind the scenes and she doesn't know yet. But I think when it comes to light, like she's gonna own him. Like she's not gonna back down from whatever's going on. But yeah, I think he has something going on with Spalletta. Spalletta obviously has something on the new pope.
Okay.
But at the same time, like he doesn't want to go against Voiello, so I don't know.
Okay, well,
there's something going on.
There's an interesting dynamic you're pointing to, and this kind of goes back to our other little back and forth. It sounds like, because this season I've attributed Sophia's intentions to be totally dark and selfish.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, to a certain extent, if you think there's space between her and her husband and their motivations, that maybe she's selfish, but she doesn't have her intentions aren't necessarily sinister. It's not as sinister as his. And
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
We will see. We'll see how this all plays out. Okay. So that's what's going on with those guys. They think that Voiello had something to do with Francis's death.
Right.
But the best advice the Pope can get is just don't mess with Voiello, because he has the Lord's hand on his side, and
whoever that Lord might be.
I don't know who the Lord is.
The dark arts.
Yeah, basically, which is very interesting.
Yeah. You know what he reminds me of? Sorry for the aside. He reminds me of who's the character, the Emperor in Star Wars? And he's like the Emperor of the Senate. He's like the leader of the Senate, but he's also like a Sith. I don't know.
I have no idea because I've never watched Star Wars.
Sorry for geeking out on the Star Wars. But he's practicing the dark arts on the low.
Seriously, yeah. So I don't know what's going on.
He does some. Oh, I'm sorry. This is what he says. He says something to the effect of power is synonymous with sin. I want to get the exact quote right, because it was something.
with mortal sin.
Yeah,
that's what Voiello's saying to
right.
that kid that he goes and sees. You're right.
Yes. And was there somebody else in the room, or is that just me?
I didn't see anybody else in the room, but maybe there was. Maybe I missed it.
I feel like the way they do the editing and they cut to another side, maybe over somebody's shoulder. Maybe you guys can help us out with that. We only got a chance to see it once, and we sped through it. But anyway, so for what it's worth, some really fancy editing, though. And that's another thing about the show.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out cinematically, is that you never necessarily know who's watching or who's listening, because the way it's shot, like they'll cut to somebody listening, or they'll cut to somebody doing something in a similar room. You're like, wait, are they in the conversation?
Right.
Or is that just a transition? Or is that a fancy reveal of who else is in cahoots with them? Same thing with the whole like sexual relationship too.
Oh my gosh, so much stuff happens like that. That's why I like this show, because it leaves so much up to you, like wondering what's going on and like trying to think of like what's next. And I wish I was like a genius, because then maybe I could figure all of it out. But some of the stuff you just have to kind of wait and find out. But there's so much even in this episode that happens.
Well, and okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it
Yeah.
because we're already talking about it. When Gutierrez, okay, he has this little liaison.
Yes.
And I guess that was Freddie, right? His date. Because
Yeah.
at first I was like, is Freddie another name for the other cardinal?
Yes, that's what I thought too.
But
Okay.
it's like we were like, that's another tricky thing that that Paolo Santino did.
Yeah.
Is that because Gutierrez gets this text.
Yeah.
And it's about like, are we meeting up later? And he immediately looks at the other cardinal.
I know.
And you're like, did the
They
other
totally
cardinal
threw us
send him the
off.
text?
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
I
so
know.
That's another thing he did.
Yeah.
So he meets up with. So he has this rendezvous with. I guess that was Freddie.
Yes.
The sexual rendezvous, and he comes and he has this late night meeting with John Maddox, with John Malkovich. And he lays into this confession, but the confession is so
my God.
bizarre.
I know.
Because it was more. Tell me, I'm not crazy, right? It seemed like it was more to kind of like get the Pope hot than like him to confess.
If I was the
anything.
Pope, I'd be like, dude, just spit it out. Like, I don't want to hear this shit. Just tell me what's going on. Oh my God, I'm so glad
like,
you said
yeah,
that.
he's like, and he turned his back
I
on
know.
me, and he looked so beautiful, and I couldn't hold back. And then cut to John Malkovich's character, and he's kind of getting off on it, and he's thinking of that, he's
I
fantasizing
know.
of Sophia.
Yes.
And then they show Sophia,
Oh
getting
my
down
God,
with
I
her
know.
husband at the Glory Hole.
He's writing like a book, like a novel of like the Christian Grey series. What are those books called?
I don't know.
50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah,
He's like
50
telling
Shades
like
of Grey.
every last detail. I'm like,
Exactly.
come on, like you're making it worse for
And then
yourself.
he did
and
this,
the Pope
and
just
then he
spit
did
it out.
that.
I know. It was like the craziest, longest story. I'm
But
like,
the Pope was into it to the
he
extent,
was into
right?
it, yeah, and that's exactly what you're talking about, though.
Yeah.
Then like we're seeing the Pope, and then you're thinking like, oh my God, did the Pope do something with Sophia because he is like obsessed with her, and
Right.
then or like did he see something that she was doing? Like what's going on? Like, or is this just happening while he's telling the story, and we're just seeing both things? I don't know, but.
Right. Okay.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Okay, since we're talking about the whole Sophia thing, now we're starting to. Excuse me for leaping ahead, but
No,
now
you're
we're
good.
starting to see like not just this power, but the power the women have,
Yeah.
the nuns as well.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the things that's being highlighted, and I think you alluded that too, because like we know, Sophia kind of has her husband's. She's got his balls in her pocket, whatever, in her purse, whatever. You
Yeah.
know, she's literally got him by him. And like, who wouldn't? I don't know. She's a very attractive woman, whatever she's doing. But
Yeah.
but yeah, and between that and the nuns, and them trying to establish themselves and be recognized and get more equal rights and more respects, I kind of like that element of how it's showing. I guess I don't know. What's the role of women in the church, and how can they exercise this power? Even with Esther, that's a thing too.
Right. So that's so funny you bring that up. So yeah, so we see like all this stuff with women. So we see Sophia, her role, the nuns, they're struggling, they're on strike. They're having trouble with Voiello. At first, Voiello thinks it's going to be like this easy fix. I'm just going to give them 200 euros. They'll be on their way. But then he realizes this is like a much bigger problem because they're demanding respect. So we
Right.
see that. Then we see Esther and her struggles. We only see her a little bit, but we see her with the guy from last week. Oh my gosh, this guy is like bad news. Like he already looks like bad news. He's just like weird
Is it
looking.
because the way he's shot, like all creepy?
He's so creepy. And then he says that stuff to her.
What does he say?
He said something to her like, you're just a Sunday morning Christian.
Oh yeah. The blonde guy.
Yeah.
The fling, the boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah, and he starts giving her this speech about basically like you're like philanthropists who think that they can throw some of their dirty money at something and then they're all good. He's like putting these like horrible thoughts in her head. So then she thinks it's okay to like go and do this thing with this guy from last
He's basically
week.
a pimp who's manipulating her.
So
and
manipulative.
playing on her conscience and everything. Yeah, I mean, like Esther's one of the few people we like, Esther and Lenny, and like God forbid we need him to come back and save us. But yeah, obviously he's even creepier. So now basically what we're seeing in this episode is we're seeing these little bastions of power, and now we're talking about the blonde guy. I don't know why. Forget his name. He looks like David Bowie.
I think it's like Fabiano.
Fabiano, of course it's Fabiano.
Of course.
Yeah, so we're seeing all these little power brokers that have existed within the institution, and that's why it's so corrupt, because this is the way things are done. Because I'm thinking, like, if there was always an Esther, you know what I mean? A woman who lived at the church for free for a couple of years, and if they needed services to satisfy this rich family, then within the next year there'll be another Esther if it's not
Right.
her.
Well, and not only with that with Esther, there's so much actually going on with Esther, even though we see her for like total 5 minutes. But
Right.
then like we see
Because she
Lenny.
changes her attitude, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Then we see Lenny in the room, And then you're like, oh, Lenny's coming to visit her. And then it's like the priest comes in
and then
he's
it cuts
like
to
messing
somebody
with
else.
her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, who was that priest?
That's the guy who's like letting her live there or whatever. So it's just like there's all this stuff going on with these women.
That's what she's. So that's the price for her rent, I guess, or whatever.
Well, yeah, but he's the one that's saying she has to get out too.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Real quick, just correct me. So she's not at the new place.
No.
So she's still at the old place where she's about to get kicked out. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I'm taking it, but we don't really know because she's only in this episode for literally like 5 minutes.
Right. Until she starts to like get aroused, right?
Right.
What's going on with that?
Oh my God, I don't know. So we have those 3 things with women, and then the last big woman part of this was that girl in the red hoodie who we keep seeing every episode. She whispers something to the Pope, and he like does not take it well. Like he comes home, he rips down the curtains, he like is all pissed off about it, but he won't tell anybody what was said.
Okay, let me tell you the way. Yeah, she does whisper something to them, but I'm on the obvious thing, and I think we're both thinking this at the time, is that she perhaps, or correct me if I'm wrong if you think different, that she probably thinks that the church had Francis killed, and perhaps it was Voiello. But the reason I think he went and tore down the drapes was because he kind of played himself by going up to like, it's like going up to the beehive, the Beyonce's beehive or whatever, and saying, I'm the new queen, kiss my hand. And of course she was going to reject it.
Right. So, exactly. Yeah, because she's a fan of Lenny.
Right.
So my thing is, obviously she likes Lenny. She wants Lenny to wake up, and like she doesn't care about this Pope. But I don't know what she says to him that makes him so mad, or if he is really all about like vanity and stuff like that. Because he does ask the doctor when he goes to visit Lenny, he's like, is there a chance that he could wake up? And I'm like, why is he asking that question? I mean, maybe he just wants to know.
Right.
But I was thinking, like, maybe he's thinking, like, is there a chance he wakes up? And then, like, what happens? Does he go back to being the Pope? And then am I nothing again?
No, I agree. I agree. I definitely caught that. And that's a thing. And John Malkovich's character, I like him because even though we're seeing kind of like the selfish side, and he kind of makes this huge confession at the end.
Yes.
Like, he knows what he's doing. He sees the corruption, and he's getting ready to make a deal with the devil. And I feel like that wasn't his intention.
Yeah.
But it's like the position and the vanity and the pride and all the ego are getting the better of him. Just like it's probably done through the whole Vatican.
Right. So then at the very end, after he makes that confession, we see Pius, and then it looks like he died. Do you think that he's dead?
Yeah, it was they gave like a little extra beep on the heart monitor, right? To imply that he's dead. He better not be dead, man.
Oh, I hope
he
not.
better not be dead.
I want his ass to wake up, like now.
Yeah.
And like come back and like fix everything.
Yeah. So I don't know. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
I'll save that one for predictions.
So it's been a crazy episode. So there's just like a lot to unpack and go over with this. So I mean, I can't wait to see what happens next episode. But speaking of crazy, we have more crazy popes that I want to hear about with Al's segment, The Most Scandalous Pope. So let's hear about the next scandalous pope.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot of scandalous popes in the papacy, in the history of the church. And, we're not here to dig up dirt. We're just stating the facts, along with the theme of the show that's exploring kind of, I guess, like the morality of the papacy and of the Vatican. We're not here to throw darts. We're just, we're just exploring the history. So this week we're on Pope Boniface the 8th, and with his my way or the highway approach to the papacy, Pope Boniface had a knack for starting fights. Among his many enemies was the writer Dante Alighieri, whose criticism of the church led to his exile from Florence, Italy, at the hands of Boniface's cronies. Also in 1302, Boniface issued a papal bull. I guess it's like a bulletin, a papal bull. The church's term for an official proclamation, which placed Europeans' kings and their armies under his command.
Oh, geez.
So this guy was ruling with the iron fist. Kind of makes what's going on, with these new popes look a little light as far as like they're not as power hungry. This guy's
totally.
As far as trying to like take over the armies and stuff.
I mean, after hearing all these stories of all these popes you're telling us about, like the stuff that's going on now, I'm just like, oh, this is nothing compared to what they used to do. They didn't dig anybody up and put them on trial. Like, it's all good.
This is more context, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that leads us into predictions for next week. So
And now,
What do you have for next week?
It's not a huge prediction, but I predict Lenny's got to come back.
Oh my gosh.
Lenny's
I
coming
hope
back to
so.
life. He's got to
love
come back
Lenny.
and save us because, you know, the church is going down to the crapper, the papacy, and Lenny was like our last hope, and he was such this, you know, this I guess like this shimmering light, this diamond in the rough. As complicated as he was, he put a positive light on the Vatican, and obviously the new Pope, John Brannon, is not strong enough and very self-aware. I kind of feel sorry for him, but very human in the sense that like I'm too weak to do anything about it, and I'm kind of like succumbing to, you know, these needs. And as we talked about, the biggest one being, you know, basically going to be allowing Sophia's husband in his little what do you call it? His little cabinet.
Yes, I agree. I think he's going to let Sophia's husband be. I can't remember what they wanted him to be, like something financial,
right?
Something in charge of all the finances, because they're having that issue with Italy wants to cut their funding, like the government wants to cut their funding.
The government's had enough, right?
So I think they're going to have to go to war with the government, and I think that Sophia's husband is going to get on board with them, and he's going to help them out, but he has other motives, so we'll find out what those are.
Wait, real quick, Jess, you just called it when you said go to war with the government, because I want to say, was it Spalletta's what was his suggestion was, you know, we can talk to I guess the secretary of the economy or whatever, and you know, he can delay this until the government falls. Like those words are pretty loaded. Not just like until they're voted out of office. He was like until this government falls. So it's probably not the first government that that the papacy has had a hand in subverting.
That's true. Yeah. So I think that's going to be a struggle. I hope we find out what happens to Lenny. I hope he's not dead, but I think he has passed. So I'm like really sad. But come back, we'll Lenny. See. And then I hope we get to see more with Esther and that Fabiano guy, because I am so tired of that guy.
Yeah, he's got to go. He's one guy I wouldn't be sorry seeing get whacked.
Yes.
And see, that was the thing. Esther has no allies. You know, Lenny was her only ally.
That's why we need Lenny back.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll come back, but I think he might be gone. So we might see a funeral for Lenny.
Hope not, but
I hope not too. So that's all we got for this week, guys. So until next week, Al Gragg, tell everybody where they can find you at.
Everybody, your boy Al Gragg. You can find me on Instagram at alg_Jamaica House Film. And I'll also be co-hosting the after show for Vikings tomorrow at 10 right here on AfterBuzz 2.
And I'm Jessie Zahner. You can find me all over social media at Athletic. And until next week, see you guys.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.